5 signs that God is breaking you so He can heal you. It is our wounds that let in the light. This quote from the Persian poet Rumi sounds sobering and comforting at the same time. In fact, a ray of light can penetrate a wall only where cracks and fissures punctuate the masonry. Healing, on a mental and emotional level, works in a very similar way. Only those who recognize and admit that they desperately need help can start on the path to recovery. In which way your prayers will be heard and you will find yourself again, you have to leave to the higher authorities. But you can only start the ball rolling yourself. Pray to God, to order from the universe. Neither of them will disappoint you. How you can recognize that your low is only temporary and only serves your healing, we will tell you here. Number 1, surrender is the only way. Sometimes life backs us into a corner, pushes us to the ground, and takes away the last bit of breathable air we could just barely spare. We are checkmated, knocked out, and everything we believed in is unhinged in one fell swoop. The total destruction of our existence is not a stroke of fate like any other. It is the ultimate low point, Armageddon, and a hopeless situation of unprecedented dimension. If this paralyzing feeling of powerlessness sounds familiar, God has temporarily taken you out of the game. There are several ways He does this, but they all have one thing in common. You're down, and you're not going to get back up without outside help, much less by simple means. Such involuntary crash landings don't happen all that often. They're often preceded by a phase of chronic disorientation and dissatisfaction. You've probably put off some important and long overdue decisions for too long. Now someone has taken them off your hands, and the solution approach could be straight out of the Old Testament. It will feel like God or the universe wants to punish you for some outrage you can't remember. But the exact opposite is true. Life cannot come into order until all the garbage and ballast that has accumulated is history. For that, it has to be in ruins so that you can build something beautiful out of the good and intact stones. Number 2, your fears challenge you to a duel. In addition to total destruction, fear also moves into your life as a permanent guest before things can start to look up again. You'll be confronted with everything you deeply fear. Existential angst, fear of death, and an uncertain future fuel the fear of simply not being good enough for this game that we call life. You feel weak, inadequate, and far too helpless to exist in this world. Look these demons of yours calmly in the face. You have God and all other good powers on your side. Calamity may teach you to fear in the short term, but you win. Number 3, everything around you changes. Major turning points in our lives often announce themselves through serial changes, which, considered individually, would not yet be a cause for concern. Neighbors move out, colleagues quit, and you notice that everything around you suddenly starts to move. These occurrences are like a gentle earthquake, but they're followed by an ominous, violent, and unpredictable tsunami. It's okay to be completely overwhelmed by this at first. We humans are creatures of habit who love to simmer in the same juices as much as possible every day. But progress can't happen that way. You have to let the apparent unhappiness run its course so that things can then start to look up again for you. Trust the process and remember that everything in life passes, even the bad times. Number 4, the impossible shows you what you are made of. We don't know how strong we can be until we have to be, and simply have no other way out. If you never have to go beyond your limits, you can't really know them at all. We are only too happy to hide behind the old familiar and the familiar terrain of a secure existence. The possibilities that await us beyond the edge of our plates must sometimes be literally forced upon us by fate so that we can enjoy them. It's the impossible that shows you what you are actually capable of. God and the universe send you the appropriate mentors for this, who reliably ensure that you finally get to know your strong, true, and almost invincible self. Number 5. It takes a sense of emptiness to receive fullness. We will not like this last point, but it is a necessary evil on the road to recovery. We humans sometimes can't see the forest for the trees. We're doing reasonably well, but we are dissatisfied. We would have everything, but we only feel the lack. If the big crash then comes, we find ourselves at the dregs of life and face nothing. This is necessary so that you can recognize the good that will follow. You need this emptiness to be able to fill it. Only very few people live so mindfully and full of humility that fate can spare them this hard lesson. Those who practice daily gratitude may be able to counteract this experience. Nevertheless, absolute zero is sometimes not inevitable. It may sound cynical to regard such personal catastrophes and strokes of fate as an educational intervention. After all, those affected are faced with the shards of their lives, and it will take a correspondingly long time for them to recognize the meaning behind it. We always understand such events only in retrospect. God's mills grind slowly. Be patient when you have asked for healing, but there's no sign of it yet. We always learn the best lesson of our lives in the hardest way. You will also come out of this trial stronger and be able to leave this low point behind forever. The higher powers, no matter what you call them, never put us through more than we can handle. We always experience the greatest darkness just before the dawn. Stay strong and have faith. Everything will be all right.